Pak, ini kondisi ini meledak, ya semua bangunannya rubuh, Pak. Ini minta tolong dulu, Pak. Jadi ledakan ini sampai ke tetangga pun nengok, hancur semua. Mobil-mobil semua hancur, Pak. Sampai sejauh ini hancur semua gitu. Orang-orang yang duduk di sini aja semua kena pecahan kacanya, Pak. Sampai sedahsyat itu. Nengok, sampai sebegini, Pak, ledakannya. Ini semua pecah, Pak, kacanya. Ini mohon bantu, Pak. Di dalam masih ada yang teriak-teriak, Pak, anak-anak gitu. Gitu. Hah? Tolong, Pak, tolong segera datang, Pak ya. Mohon bantuannya.
क्रैम्प्स आ गए हैं। आने दो भाई, दूर हो जाओ।
New Delhi witnessed large-scale protests on Monday as thousands took to streets in the national capital.
Well, the protesters attempted to march to the parliament announced by the Cockroach Janata Party, but were stopped at security barricades outside the complex. And this as tensions escalated as clashes broke out between protesters and police.
While the Cockroach Janata Party alleged excesses by cops as protesters marched ahead, the police alleged that the protesters behaved aggressively and resorted to violence.
Senior officers were injured during the incident. It said that despite repeated warnings and instructions to disperse, the protesters refused to move and violated the restrictions in place.
The police said the protesters tried to break through barricades, threw stones and other objects at personnel, and damaged police and government vehicles. They also alleged that the public property was vandalized during the protest. Following the clashes, around 70 protesters have been detained.
Meanwhile, Cockroach Janata Party has said that the protest would continue. Its leaders even alleged that police personnel used force against protesters and beat them without any reason during the demonstrations.
According to reports, a few demonstrators sustained injuries during the baton charge and were administered first aid at the scene.
Some protesters still remained at the Jantar Mantar site early Monday morning. They gathered around a protest stage they had reclaimed in the evening. Heavy security is deployed now at the protest site with security personnel and riot control vehicle deployed as well.
انت سیلاب راغلی موږ سترګو ولیدل چې جسدونه په اوبو کې روان وو زموږ دوکانونه هر څه کېدونونه د چرګانو دا ساحې ټولې خرابې شولې نو ډېر زیات تاوانونه سیلاب خلکو ته ورسول
نحن زوطة الغربية بحدها من ميلة الشرق زوطر الشرقية، يعني القرى متداخلة مع بعضها الزوطرين، فنحن ما فينا نأمن إسرائيلي موجود على حدودنا وتقريبا ما بيبعد عننا كتير، فكيف بدنا نأمن نطلع على زوطة الغربية إذا حاولنا نعمل شيء نبني نأسس ما بنقدر، ما فينا نعد بنى تحتية، الضيعة كلها خربانة فيها دمار هائل. كنا نحن بعد ما يعطينا إذن الجيش بالدخول على زوطة الغربية كمواطنين بنفوت لأنه الجيش موجود، بس بنطل بنشوف شو في داخل زوطة الغربية وبنحمل حالنا مثل استقرار ما فينا وما بنقدر أصلا، ما بنقدر لا بكل تفاصيل ما بنقدر. مثل ما قلت لك البنى التحتية كلها معدومة، البيوت كلها بالأرض، جرفوا الطرقات الرئيسية جرفوها فلحوها يعني.
The Red Sea is flashing red, quite literally. After Hormuz, the next pressure point is the Bab el-Mandeb, the narrow gateway that can jam global trade in a heartbeat. And now the Houthis are threatening shipping here, and Saudi Arabia is warning of using force. The world supply lines are now back in the firing line, and our next report explains what it means for global energy markets and how this could impact your pocket in the days to come. Take a look.
It begins with a warning shot. Then the market panic follows. One choke point is already strained. Now another could be dragged into the storm. Bab al-Mandeb, the narrow strait between Yemen and the Horn of Africa, is no side note. It is a gate through which oil, cargo and war risk all pass at speed. The threat is simple and brutal. If the Houthis move to choke this route, the consequences could spread far beyond the Red Sea. Ships would be forced to divert, transit times would jump, insurance costs would soar, oil prices could spike massively. After squeezing Hormuz, Iran's Houthi allies have turned to the Red Sea gateway as a new pressure point. As seen in this map, Houthi forces have declared a strict maritime embargo against Saudi Arabia at the Bab al-Mandeb Strait that handles roughly 4 to 7.4 million barrels of oil and petroleum products per day. This amount equals about 5 to 7% of total global oil trade. These are the images of Houthi supporters' rally in Sana'a after armed forces announced the navigation ban on Saudi Arabia.
Yemen is moving forward with a continued comprehensive escalation, first through the naval and air blockade across all parts of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Major foreign companies, including American, British, and other companies investing billions of dollars, will be targeted.
Saudi Arabia and the Houthis traded fire last week for the first time in years, threatening a 2022 truce that has held despite expiring. The exchange of strikes was set off when an Iranian plane attempted to land in Sana'a, challenging Saudi Arabia's hegemony over Yemeni skies. Houthis also warn of inflicting harm of Saudi oil facilities. The kingdom produces over 10 million barrels of crude per day for energy imports.
We say to the Saudi aggression that if you fire at any aircraft that comes to Yemen, or if you fire at Yemen, then we will target your petroleum facilities and we will target your airports and we will target your families.
Analysts say the danger is not just another clash at sea. It is the prospect of two critical maritime arteries being hit at once, with Hormuz already disrupted and Bab al-Mandeb now under pressure. For shippers, the nightmare is clear. One blocked route can be absorbed. Two choke points at the same time could remake trade flows, drag freight rates higher and deepen the shock across energy markets. Bab al-Mandeb is not just geography, it is a pressure valve, and right now it is hissing. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
This is Dabu 7. We have Trump issuing a threat basically open in front of the whole world to Iran when telling CENTCOM to unleash the gates of hell on the regime. We've had going on 8 days now of constant bombardment and pounding key facilities, a lot of key infrastructure, 116 communication towers wiped out by the U.S. military. Iran, in return, has struck a U.S. base in Saudi Arabia for the first time in 4 months. Iran also suspends the MOU with the U.S., declaring that the agreement is over, that there are no commitments and nothing will be fulfilled. So you're back to a clean slate. There's no talks, there's no nothing. This is all out war. And nothing is getting fixed with Hormuz, obviously. They're actually threatening to shut down the other strait out of the Red Sea, the Strait of Tears. If they do that and make that move, the whole world that's ignoring this will have no choice but to pay attention, because everyone will be affected. The flow of absolutely everything will be shut down from this part of the world. So, on the back end, an alert put out here by the State Department. They're issuing worldwide caution. Americans, if you're out there in any of these places, like worldwide, like you're safe nowhere at this point. With all the violence in all the countries anyway, It's like take your pick at this point. They have brought people into other countries that would not assimilate to cause chaos all across Europe. And with pure war, they're dropping bombs just like Israel does in Syria, in Gaza, in Lebanon, in all these places. And they're picking a fight with Turkey now. So when this war's over, it won't be over, like some think, because they heard 10 years ago that Iran was the last on the list, but failed to get the update on what's going on. Well, it's not going to stop with Iran. And unless somebody puts a stop to all this war, it's never going to stop at this rate. And there's going to be big destruction here. But again, worldwide caution is the alert being put out here by the State Department, wherever you're going. Because the blowback is real. The fact that somebody out there that's just truly pissed off that the U.S. killed their religious leader and all that, something's going to go down. Something's going to happen somewhere. It's just the way that it is. There's going to be repercussions for our country dropping bombs and Americans turning the cheek, looking the other way. There just will be. And there's no running from that. So
it turns out the Pentagon's been lying. There's more casualties than they've admitted. They just put out a report on, of all places, CBS News, saying that a lot more of our troops have been injured in Jordan than we previously reported earlier in the week. 2 of our bases were hit in Jordan. Iran has been saying that they've been hitting Syria, Jordan, Kuwait, and other allies that we have, because that's where our bases are. And the entire time, the Trump administration has, as usual, been lying and saying, oh, no, there are no big casualties at all, etc. Now, the people in Jordan apparently were injured. We don't know if there's any more fatalities. There's at least 14 dead now. But every once in a while, they'll surreptitiously add other casualty numbers. In fact, we reported earlier in the week on the Young Turks that hundreds of extra casualties were added recently, and those are people who were injured in the war, and now that number is above 430, so way larger than people were talking about earlier. Meanwhile, we are on our 7th night in a row of strikes against Iran, massive strikes on Friday night. So we have been bombing Iran endlessly for the last week, so any semblance of a ceasefire is totally shredded. It looks like Trump has been convinced that, oh my God, Iran is on the ropes, and if we just keep hitting them, they'll surrender. Of course, that's nonsense pushed forward by the Israelis. The Israelis want America in endless wars. They want us attacking all of their neighbors and all of their enemies and killing them on their behalf, and of course, all paid for by you and I. So now that's cost America dearly, with more injuries and more casualties in our bases across the Gulf, all brought to you by our so-called allies in Israel. We should end the war and leave immediately.
Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power Yahweh. Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachak Qurash. Double honors to the apostles and bishops and the orders of Green Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be. Whoever you may be, to you I say Shalom, Yahshua, Shalom. Alright, it's going to be brief here. Alright, coming to you with another episode of the current state. Alright, now in this particular one here, I want to speak about, which is actually coming from news that I posted a day or so ago. Alright, but just doubling back around and talk about it, because a couple scriptures came to mind, and which is what you have this rekindling, which it never really fully died out, but of this America-Persian war, okay? And so because and you see one major player all the time, all right, when it comes to war, all right, is Esau Edom, all right? He's constantly involved in war, all right, over and over and over. In this time period that we're living in, all right, he's one of those main individuals, all right, when it comes to war and World War III, okay? And there's a scripture, just a couple scriptures I thought about, okay? Because like it says in what is it like? I think it's Romans chapter 9. All right. But I know it mentions when it talks about Pharaoh, where it speaks about for this purpose, have I raised you up, okay, so on and so forth. Okay, and so yeah, Esau has his purpose. He has his lot, right? He's going to bring forth the Lord's microchip. That's one thing. Okay, but also, when we're talking about this war, he's a major player in these world wars here. All right, so he's only doing what the Lord wants him to do. Okay, and so when you go to, there it is, right, Revelation chapter 20. All right, to a particular scripture I want to bring out here. So it says in verse 7, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And the reason why I read that is because what I just said there. All right, this is a major purpose for Esau. He's stirring up, all right, battle. All right, he's stirring up war. Okay, what did he say? Who was it? Was it? Well, I guess they've all said it, but I'm thinking of Pete Hegseth, where he was screaming out peace through strength. So you mean to tell me that your only idea of achieving peace is to go out there and show your ass, and create war? There's no other diplomatic way but to wage war? Of course not for Esau. You know why? Because he wants to take over, rule, and govern everyone, even in their own countries and territories. So if you're not doing as he asks, then you're no use to him. Or he's going to deem you as an enemy or label you as a terrorist or whatever the case may be. Okay, and so that's what we see happening now. Them trying to expand this revival of the ancient Roman Empire. Okay, talking about they're going to take Canada. They already, pretty much got Mexico, if you will. Think of it that way. There's talks of Cuba. Venezuela. They got Venezuela. All right, Colombia possibly. All right, changing the names of waters. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna go here, go there, say over this. And that's what they do. All right, they go and they try to expound on their empire by expanding their territory, which means taking over another person's, territory, another person's resources and things of that nature. So this is why the scripture came to mind, because all that they're doing is really what the Lord has allotted for them to do. All right, in the first place, go out here, do what you do. All right. And you're going to stir up World War III. So it says Gog and Magog, which is talking about Russia, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. So let you know the major player, all right, in these last days in World War III, all right, that it's going to be against Babylon the Great is going to be Russia. Okay, which I haven't even planned on going there, but Ezekiel 38 chapter, all right, there's other places that are going to be involved, as you see here. Put Ezekiel 38 chapter, all right. Other countries are going to be involved. Okay, and sitting here talking about Saudi and some kind of draft, for a deal or whatever the case may be, and that's going to work against them, because if they end up being one of those countries to shoot nukes on you, then it's going to work against you, because even though they're sitting down at meetings and tables and things of that nature now, all right, there are countries that are going to launch missiles on this place, and are all going to launch together. All right, on this one place, Babylon the Great. Okay. All right, so you have, these things being stirred up here. Okay. Let's just pull up the 38th chapter. Like I said, I hadn't planned on going over here. I'll just get a point. So. Actually, might be good to go into this chapter again. I haven't been to in a while. Yeah, let's get this right here. So maybe maybe 3, Ezekiel 38 and 3, and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, right? Speaking to what we just spoke about, Gog, Magog, Russia, okay? Tries to speak about how he's going to stir up the Medes against them. Against who? Against Babylon the Great. Okay, so it's eventually going to come to that point. As of right now, you have one of the major players, all right, already involved in a back and forth, and they're lying about casualties, lying about injuries and things of that nature, all right, with what's happening over, like Jordan right now, which is also happening in our land, right? Man, what was I about to say? Man, lost my train of thought there. Shoot. But yeah, anyways, it's going to eventually lead up to the point where they're going to have to go head to head with Russia, and there's going to be other countries, all right, that are going to be involved. This is the whole so-called world, well, not so-called because it is World War III, but down in the so-called Middle East, all right. So, yeah, it says Persia here, which are who? The Iranians. Okay, so that's what you see already going on with them right now. All right, Ethiopia and Libya with them, which are countries in Africa, so-called. All of them with shield and helmet, all right, with their weapons of war, okay, with their, with all their men of war and all their things in their, their stuff for war, okay, as a part of those that are going to join up with the bear, with Russia, okay. And the scriptures say, I will stir up the Medes against them, all right. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togomar of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them, all right? Because this is not a war that Babylon the Great is going to win, all right? They're going to lose this war, okay? And, tensions are only going to get worse and worse. Let's get this. Joel 2 and 20. But I will remove far off from you the northern army. What northern army is that? All right. Let's talk about the Northern American army. All right, Babylon the Great. Okay, and would drive him into a land barren and desolate. All right, taking them from where? From over here, placing them in east. All right. There's been talk about them actually sending in, an official ground troop invasion of Iran. All right, Persia, and everybody that's talking about it saying that that's going to be basically a death march, all right? Because there's nothing they can do against these people now, okay? Even though what they say, we destroy their navy, they don't have this, they don't have that, we destroy this, destroy that. So how are they still launching attacks on you? Because at this point, this is about the 9th night, all right? From the video, there was I think he said it was the 7th night of attacks. So at this point now, it's like been 9 nights, all right? 9, days of attacks. Moving into the 10th day of attacks, okay? And things are always heating up more and more and more. Each time this thing escalates, okay? So, it says with his face toward the East Sea, right? Towards that, that Persian Gulf. Because when you look at the map of the Tigris and Euphrates, which actually comes all the way down from Turkey. Actually, no, it goes up into Turkey. But I'm speaking of map-wise, if you're looking at Turkey, it goes all the way down, and ends out down there to the Persian Gulf. Okay, so you see all those bodies of water there. And what's over there? Right, you got Iraq, Iran, okay, Saudi Arabia, all those different areas. Jordan, okay. Not exactly on where the river is. I was just speaking of general locations in those areas. Because you have tension taking place in all these different areas. Okay? But yeah, so it says, and his hinder part toward the uttermost sea, all right, which is that Red Sea. Okay, you can see it's wedged right there between. Okay, basically, to say the least, where the major bulk of World War III is probably going to take place is in the so-called Middle East. All right, because they're definitely, because it says speaks about from the North Country, not in this one. Okay. There's a verse that actually is talking about Russia when it talks about the North Country. As a matter of fact, we'll see if we can find it next. I wasn't expected to get it, but we'll see if we can find it. It says, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he had done great things. All right. So, what I just mentioned. think that's what I'm looking for. North Country. Okay, yep, North Country right here. Jeremiah 50:9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon. All right, Babylon the Great, an assembly of great nations. You see, starting with the Medes, the Russians, right? That said, be a guard unto them, unto those other countries who are also going to want to come against Babylon the Great. So, an assembly, all right, of great nations. It says from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her, against who? Babylon the Great. From thence she shall be taken. See that? Their arrows, which are the missiles, shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. That's what basically is broken down in Joel chapter 2. All right? How they're not going to break their ranks and so on and so forth. Okay? Because the Spirit of the Lord is going to be guiding them. And Chaldea shall be a spoil, and all that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord Yahweh. The NLT says, for I am raising up an army of great nations from the north. They will join forces to attack Babylon, and she will be captured. The enemy's arrows will go straight to the mark. They will not miss. There you go. So yeah, something brief, just speaking about the war. All right, tensions escalating. There's many other things happening. All right, but I'm gonna probably leave it at that. Lord willing, you will edify. Shalom.
If the world's wealthiest and best connected people out there knew that a catastrophe was about to hit, their movement, especially on private jets, might reveal something's going down before officials officially tell the public. So that theory has inspired a programmer to build an online apocalypse warning system. This monitors more than 31,000 private and business aircraft, and it looks for signs of unusual exodus. It counts how many flights, which jets are airborne compared to the figures of historical patterns, and it looks for surges that could suggest that something's going down. Now, the programmer here, Kyle McDonald, created the system after questioning just that, whether the movement of the rich could expose that a danger is amongst us when the officials haven't said anything. So this website assigns a global private jet activity and emergency level number between 1 and 5. The highest level triggers when there's a number of aircraft that break through these barriers. They got a couple, triggers here to make sure that it doesn't constantly set off with false alarms. And I'm sure that he can go in and look at Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and their specific aircraft and have them punched in, Mark Zuckerberg. And if you see all of those start to lift off at the same time, going in a certain direction, like he says, it could signal something's going down. He stresses that this cannot really predict an apocalypse, but it may be the only kind of warning that we get. You got to look for the signs, so to speak. And this would be one of them. So, watching the movement, definitely key. We've got plane spotters out there, and we've had Elon Musk get pissed off and kick people off of X that were tracking him, kind of doing the same thing. But when it's public info out there, it's public info. And with this guy collecting the data, it will be interesting to see if anything pops off on the website before something big in real time.